the channel for les Chocolats De Chickee. So in the previous video, I showed you how to temper white chocolate. Now I'm going to show you how to fill the mold, which will be, this will be the mold that I'll be using for today's white chocolate lined, white chocolate lemon curd filled bonbons. So what I use is, I have a silpat that I bought at ABC en Belux, which is I guess a baking and cooking supply shop here in Montreal. You do not have to use this. Up until I bought this, I was using regular parchment paper, but it is easier than doing it on your counter because when the chocolate is already hardened and you've already done everything, you just kind of scrunch it up and you peel it off and you pour it back into your stuff and it's all good. It means you don't waste anything. Okay, so you're gonna need that, a ladle so that you can scoop up your chocolate and put it in your mold. I use a small palette knife. For me, it's easier to move the chocolate onto my mold to make sure that it fills in all of the holes. My regular scraper palette knife so that I can make sure that the chocolate's completely taken off of the mold so that when you flip it back over, it's all good. And a hammer. In theory, or at least while I was in school, you should have a rubber hammer, or at least a rubber mallet. I don't have one. So what we were told was you can use a regular hammer and use the rubber end of it because when you're tapping on your mold, you don't want anything to actually break your mold. You would never use this because it would cause divots and breaks in your plastic. And there's a chance that besides you could ruin your mold forever, that you could potentially put some plastic in your chocolate, and nobody wants to eat chocolate with plastic. You could be sued. It's a very bad health hazard. Nobody wants to do it. Rubber end, and this is how you hit it. Okay? All right. Let's start with filling the mold with chocolate. So I'm going to take the ladle. I'm going to fill in parts of the mold with the whole thing across with chocolate. You don't have to be pretty. You don't want too much of it to go out of your bowl, but you definitely want to fill in all of your little cavities because that makes the outside crust of your chocolate. Don't worry if you don't have enough chocolate in your bowl for this. In theory you should, but this is why I have my little palette knife. Because you see that there's lots and lots of chocolate on the very, very top. So what you want to do is take your palette knife and squish it around. Make sure it fills all of your little cavities. You want to make sure that everything is filled because it would suck. I know from personal experience last week doing this with dark chocolate, it would suck if some of your cavities did not have a complete filling of chocolate. Chocolate will get stuck inside the cavities and it really sucks to clean out. So for me, I'm just going to peel off some of this chocolate so that I don't waste it and it doesn't run down my arm. Okay. So what you're going to do now is you take your hammer, hold this really securely because it can move around, and I'll come down here lower, you lightly bang against your mold. What you're doing is lifting all of the air bubbles from inside the cavities so that all of your chocolate will have, I guess, flawless outsides. So we were taught to do it in small little bursts. Doing it in big bursts really doesn't help. It's not gonna, I mean, it'll lift up the air bubbles, but really it's not that great. It's a small, quick little taps. In French, they say, je frappe le moule. I hit the mold. So most of the bubbles are up, which is all I needed. Now, just going to take a little bit more off here, make my life a little easier, clean out the sides to make sure there's no chocolate running down my arms. Okay, for me, I do this over the bowl. and then over my silpat because I like to conserve my chocolate because I need it for other things. So I'm going to turn this over and let the chocolate run out into my bowl. When it starts to be a little less, that's when I move to my silpat. Let's say about now. So move to my silpat. Hold your mold very tight because this is a little challenging. And you lightly smack it again. And what you're doing is taking some of the chocolate, at least the excess chocolate, out of your mold so that it forms this wonderful, wonderful shell. Let's check. Not too shabby. Alright. I like the way this is going. It's not too thick and it's not too thin. So what I'm going to do now is scrape across the top to make sure that it creates a nice flat edge. It's not always going to be perfect. Sometimes, as you see, your knife gets a little stuck. For me, I found, I don't know if you can see, there's some little, better this way, some little drips in there. Those I find I don't mind. When I take them out, I find it creates a thinner crust on the outside. So I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that it's going to have a nice crust because it is going to be lemon curd and I don't want any holes. And then what you do, I have a second silpat, is you flip it upside down on your silpat and leave it there for a few minutes because anything that's still in there in the very, I guess in the bottom of the cavity, which is now the top of the cavity, here, anything that's here is going to drip down just to be sure it's got a nice setting in it. Alright, and that is how you fill your mold for chocolate. Just wanted to let you know before I finish this video that once you've left your mold for a little while, which you can see that some of it's going to come out, you take your mold and you put it in the fridge. That will make sure that there's no streaky lines on it, which you won't notice so much in white chocolate, but you will notice in dark and milk chocolate. So again, you just leave it down until it starts to temper a little bit more, or starts to dry a little bit more, and you want to make sure you put it in the fridge so that you get a for sure nice crust on it. Tune in next time for how to fill the chocolates and then afterwards how to cover them. Bye.